Hi, my name is Mark Wiggins, and I want to welcome you to my channel, What Burns My Ass. Hi, this is Mark. Welcome back to my channel, What Burns My Ass. This is a channel where I tell you the things that burn my ass, and you tell me whether or not they burn your ass too. So, this is a political show or a commentary show or semi-news show. I think very similar to like when Bill Maher hosts his roundtable on his Bill Maher show on HBO. And so they do some opening things and some opening topics, and then they have the roundtable where they discuss it. Well, the woman in charge of this show is a woman named Casey Hunt, and she's the chief foreign affairs analyst for CNN. And then on there, she's going to have a gentleman named Jonah Goldberg, who is a commentator and co-founder of the organization called Dispatch. And then there's also Elliot Williams, who's a legal analyst. And then there's Megan Hayes, who's a former director for messaging for the Biden White House. And then finally, there is Brad Todd, who's a Republican strategist, which I think you're not going to get much of a non-biased show if you're only going to have one Republican and 4 Democrats or 5 Democrats against one. But for the most part, I'm surprised. The Republican on CNN kind of did hold his own. I separate one thing from him that he says at the end that kind of drives me crazy. But for the most part, I'm right on par with him. I think he did a pretty decent job of holding his own on this show. But the fact that this Casey Hunt and some of the other analysts on this show distort what really happened, because this is all about another controversial comment that Donald Trump made. Because, you know, like when he said there was going to be a bloodbath, or he's going to be a dictator for a day, or there's fine people on both sides. This is another example where he said something, they take it out of context, and they try to make it the American people believe that he said something that he really didn't. And it's just insane that they try this over and over and over again. And I don't want to keep repeating it on my show. Thank God the election is going to be over in 4 days. But to repeat myself over and over again, I have to, because that's what they're doing. And I'm bringing you my commentary on what they're doing. But it's insane that it just happens so frequently. It's like, why not just tell the American people what you have to offer and stop saying Donald Trump and Donald Trump and Donald Trump did this, Donald Trump said Donald. So therefore, don't vote for it because Donald Trump. I mean, why not say, hey, American people, this is my plan. This is how it's going to benefit you. This is how I'm going to implement it. This is how I'm going to pay for it. That would get you way more voters than what they're doing right now. It's insane the way they're handling this election. And that's why they're losing it. If they did it the way I'm suggesting, I'm pretty sure that they'd be winning. And like I said, too, in my other videos, had they run somebody with brains like Josh Shapiro or Hillary Clinton, even though, like I said before, I'm not a big fan of Hillary Clinton, she's at least got brain. At least Hillary Clinton has intelligence and brains. And I think if there did become an economic crisis, she can handle it more so than Kamala Harris. Because Kamala Harris was the worst rated politician in the history of our country. And they forced her on the American people, all for greed, because there was $250 million that was donated to the Biden-Harris campaign. And had they not run Kamala Harris, they would have given it back. But I think if they'd run somebody like Josh Shapiro with a brain, or somebody like Hillary Clinton, they would have gotten all that money back. Those people would have given the money back. So it was bad decision-making on the part of the Democrat Party. But let's go ahead and listen to this commentator, Casey Hunt, and the distortion is astonishing. And then also I want you to see, I'll show you how me and this Republican commentator were on the same page for almost everything that he says. All right, so let's go ahead and watch this commentary.
He's out from Election Day, and former President Donald Trump is escalating his violent rhetoric, suggesting one of his most prominent critics, the former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, should be fired upon.
She's a radical war hawk Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy.
Let's see how she feels when the guns are trained on her face.
Now, what Donald Trump was saying, and anybody with a brain would know that he was saying it's so easy for people that are what they call war hawks, or who want to have war, which they've always said about, people have been saying about Dick Cheney for decades, and now they're saying, no, I guess he's trying to imply his daughters the same way. But it is easy, like somebody like Putin, who doesn't really value life, to send his troops in to die en masse because they don't have the right equipment. So, we'll just win by how many people die. You know, we'll just keep sending troops, and eventually we'll just overpower them by the amount of troops we have. That's what Donald Trump is. That's what Donald Trump is referring to as a war hawk. Somebody like her. It's easy to send soldiers in harm's way when you're not the one with 9 guns pointing at you. But of course, Casey Hunt's trying to imply that he wants her in a firing squad, which is it's insane. I mean, I think she has to know in her heart of hearts, but she needs to connotate her job and make an episode here. So she's going to distort the facts and what is said so that she has something to tell the American people, even if it makes absolutely no sense. Let's listen to some more of this incredibly horrible commentary.
Let's sit with that for a moment. Of course, violent rhetoric, it's not new for Trump. But this stark imagery represents an escalation at a tense moment when the country is on edge heading into Tuesday, with 7 in 10 Americans saying they feel anxious or frustrated about the election, according to a new AP poll. And it comes after Trump has raised the specter of using the U.S. military on Americans he calls the enemy within.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. It should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
Now, what Donald Trump was saying there, and she's going to, again, distort it in about a second when I start this video again. She's going to distort it. What Donald Trump was actually saying there, okay, was that there are people like what happened after George Floyd, or the people that took over, I think it was Portland or Seattle. They took over a portion of the city for a while. And there's been violence across this whole country based on abortion, based on Palestine, the Palestinian war, and supporting a terrorist organization like Hamas. That's what he's talking about. And he's only talking about using the military if they perpetuate violence, like what happened after George Floyd, or like what happened in Portland, or some of these other massive demonstrations that have caused damage across our country. That's what he's talking about. But she's going to say that she's going to imply, and also Kamala Harris has been implying this, and you'll see that in this video too, where she implies that Donald Trump will actually use the military against American people just because they don't like Donald Trump. He's that crazy. He's a Putin, and he's just going to send people into war. He's going to let people die. He's going to kill the American people just because they don't like him. Nobody's going to believe that. Nobody, except for if you live on MSDNC and some of these other propaganda channels, and you've been hearing this for 3 and 4 years. Yeah, okay, you might believe it. But if you have common sense, you know that's not what he's saying. So anyway, let's listen.
Throughout the last nearly 10 years, with Trump on the national stage, the public rhetoric has gotten darker and more violent with time.
The man that was I don't know, you say roughed up. He was so obnoxious and so loud. He was screaming. Maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing.
That was during Trump's first campaign. During his administration, he asked his national security team if he could shoot protesters.
he was speaking to General Mark Milley when he asked that question of, can't you just shoot him in the legs or something? And I was, shocked by it. To hear this from the President of the United States saying that we shoot our fellow Americans in the streets of the nation's capital.
But if you didn't notice, he said shoot them in the leg to stop the violence. So Donald Trump's trying to say he wants to kill American people. He says he just wants to stop the violent people, maybe by shooting them in the leg or something. I mean, obviously, he doesn't know much about policing. And, it was like that crazy comment about the bleach and COVID and all that stuff. He doesn't really think people are going to inject bleach or drink bleach or any of that. And I don't think he didn't want to kill anybody here. He just said, shoot him in the leg in hopes of stopping the violence. But they're trying to make it sound like, he just wants to shoot them because they're against him. So let's just shoot protesters. The fact that they think anybody would analyze it that way and believe them, it's just, there's no words. Anyways, let's move on.
That was Donald Trump's former defense secretary, Mark Esper. After Trump left office, he suggested the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Mark Milley, should possibly be executed. Milley's phone call with the Chinese to reassure them in the wake of the January 6th riot was, quote, an act so egregious that in times gone by, the punishment would have been death. Trump.
Now, again, distortion of the facts. This Mark Milley actually called China a foreign nation without the knowledge of the president and divulged some security things that had went on during January 6th that he shouldn't have. And Donald Trump said that in the past, people that had called a foreign country and without the knowledge of their leaders or the president would be shot for treason, which is true. I don't think he was suggesting that Mark Milley should be shot for treason, although what he did was very egregious. You don't call a foreign country like China, who's basically a political rival, and give them secret information, top secret information, or security information without the permission of the government, or at least from the permission from the president, without their knowledge. And that's what Donald Trump, but she won't tell you that, again, trying to make you think that Donald Trump just is this violent person who wants to shoot people that don't agree with him. It's amazing.
Wrote on his Truth Social platform. Then came his 2024 campaign after actual violence erupted at the Capitol, trying to prevent the certification of Joe Biden's 2020 win.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
You see the spirit from the hostages, and that's what they are, as hostages. They've been treated terribly. Unbelievable patriots, and they were unbelievable patriots and are.
He called people put in jail for what they did that day, quote, unbelievable patriots. And as the campaign has gone on, he has made these promises.
Oh, so anyways, what he was saying there is that what he was saying was, there are some people, like if you watched my prior video called The Real January 6th, which commentated on the Tucker Carlson video that he made at the Capitol about the Capitol building and the so-called insurrection or protest on January 6th. And it shows that a huge portion of the people were there just to sightsee. They went in there. It was only a few people, and a lot of those were Proud Boys. And I think that's also the ultra left that Donald Trump is saying is part of the enemy within, is people like the Proud Boys. That's who he's referring to, not the average American people. And so he's calling these people that went in because they felt like the election had been stolen. So they were standing up for America and for democracy. So that's why he's saying they're patriots. But this lady's trying to say that, he's trying to stick up for everybody. Donald Trump said that he would pardon a lot of the people, not every single one of them. He said it would be on a case-by-case basis based on what he did. And I'm sure probably those people that used the shields or were actually accused of violently attacking police officers, I'm sure are the people he's not going to give a pardon to. But they're not going to tell you that. They're just because he's going to pardon everybody, and he pardoned people that were committed insurrection, because that's what they want you to believe. Again, no words.
I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
And 2024 is the final battle. That's going to be the big one.
So, again, his retribution is going to be the fact that inflation is through the roof. Our country's been invaded by millions and millions of immigrants, unvetted. The retribution is voting for him to reverse all that. That is what he's referring to. But that's not what she's going to imply. She's going to imply that he's trying to imply violence on American people that don't agree with him. I can't say anything. Anyways, but that's what they did. Let's listen to some more of this craziness.
This is the final battle, he says. He's talking about the election happening 4 days from now. In her closing argument of this campaign, his opponent, Kamala Harris, had this warning.
Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him.
That's where we are 4 days from Election Day.
Now, Kamala Harris has been saying this for the last several days out of desperation because she knows she's losing the race. But I don't think there are people that actually believe that. A friend of mine, very good friends, he believes that Donald Trump is going to take over the government. He's never going to leave office. I mean, first of all, the guy's going to be 84 years old. How long is he going to try to stay president? Let's be real. And even then, you got to realize our government's set up in a way for that to happen. There's too many checks and balances. There's an executive branch, there's a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. Now, of course, Donald Trump's the executive, but the judicial and the legislative, if Donald Trump tried to take over the government, would stop him. And that's what you have to know. Our Constitution's set up that way for a reason. Our government's set up for that way for a reason. So to believe otherwise is, I'm sorry, naive. It's just naive. So, but this is what they want people to believe. They want you to be scared. And she even said that the American people are scared. They're the reason America is scared. Because instead of just saying what they can offer the American people, they make up lies and distortions about how the other side is going to take over their government and take away democracy from them. And that is why we are where we are in this election. And that is why Kamala Harris is losing. Because she, instead of saying what she could do for American people, it's Donald Trump this and Donald Trump this and everything's Donald Trump fault and Donald Trump. And saying, hey, this is my plan. This is how I'm going to implement it. This is how I'm going to pay for it. If she had done that, she'd be much farther ahead. And I know damn well if somebody had a brain like Josh Shapiro or like Hillary Clinton, and they could show charts and figures and how they were going to make their plan work, it'd be a very good chance that Donald Trump wouldn't win. But that's not how they handle it so far. So that is where we are right now. Let's listen to some more of this commentary and the rhetoric between the little panel that they have here.
In 2024. Joining us now to discuss, Elliot Williams, CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor, Jonah Goldberg, CNN political commentator, co-founder and editor-in-chief of The Dispatch, Megan Hayes, former director of message planning for the Biden White House, and Brad Todd, Republican strategist and partner at the public strategy firm On Message. Welcome to all of you. Jonah Goldberg, I'd like to start with you as we sort of take in the comments that he had about Liz Cheney last night, suggesting that she be fired upon, see how she likes it. What does this mean at this point in the election cycle?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like we're triggering Brad, who works for a company called On Message, that he is not exactly on message here. Look, I don't think you even need to call it fired upon. He's saying quite explicitly and unambiguously that Liz Cheney should be shot, should be executed by firing squad. That is appalling. It is a small facet of the reasons why he's unfit for office, and the Republican Party has made a disastrous mistake renominating him. All that said, since we're here for the punditry, I don't know what this gets him, right? If his problem is freaking out suburban women who don't like the chaos, don't like the violent rhetoric and all that kind of stuff, that's just not a great closing argument. Let's execute a political opponent who happens to be a woman because I don't like her. And like, does that pull more low propensity voters in his coalition to the polls? I honestly don't think so, but maybe they have some data that says otherwise.
Now, here we go. That has got to be the worst analysis of the situation. And he's one of the co-founders of CNN. And that tells me why this channel is failing. Because to analyze this scenario the way he just did, and then also make it about gender, it's disgusting. It's just propaganda. And it's scary that people believe it. And I mean, if you have the least bit analytical brain, you know very well what was said by Donald Trump is nothing like what this guy's implying. This needs to be changed. This really needs to be changed. I mean, I'm an American veteran. I fought for the right for free speech. And free speech is free speech. But when you're doing it on this scale, nationwide, and you're saying things I know you don't actually believe, to me, that's dangerous. That's what's dividing this country, and it needs to stop. But again, we have free speech, so we got to let it go on. Anyways, let's listen to some more of this insane analysis.
Just if Access Hollywood did not have an impact in rendering this individual unfit to be elected president of the United States, and then forget everything that happened. No. But okay, then let's forget what happened for the next 4 years. So if January 6th and the rhetoric there did not render this individual unfit for office, and people are still have open questions about Donald Trump, then I don't know what else is going to move the needle. And to Jonah's point, there is no defending that rhetoric. We can try to both sides anything that anybody says, but that was quite explicit what he said there.
You would have a hard time selling a jury that that's what he said.
I would not have a hard time selling a jury that that's what he said, although it was a statement made.
So there you go. They just admitted it right there that they know damn well that's not what he said, because they know if it went in front of a jury, he would not be convicted. If they try to convict him on, like, say, threatening violence against Liz Cheney, it wouldn't hold up in court because they know very well what he was actually saying. And most people would analyze it that way, including a jury. So the fact that they're saying this shows that they're disingenuous and they're just here to make a show. I don't think they actually believe what they're saying. And it's just, I'm just baffled. So anyways, let's listen to more of this craziness.
Out of court might be hearsay, so I don't know. But anyway.
I'm going to say this in the backwards order because so I can get it all out. I don't think that first of all, I agree with Liz Cheney on foreign policy more than I agree with Donald Trump on some of these questions, or at least historically I have. He was talking about their difference on foreign policy. Liz Cheney's a hawk. If you listen to the rest of the bite, he says she always wanted to go to war with people. I don't want to go to war with people. He was saying if she was the one that had to go into infantry combat, maybe she would see it differently. That's a critique Democrats have made about Dick Cheney and other hawks.
But staring at 9 barrels, you think that's...
Yes, he's talking about going to war. Now let's go. Now
that's called hyperbole, people.
Now let's go to Donald Trump's problem. This is why he's in a close race. He's ahead in every target state this morning, enough to get 270 in the New York Times poll, which is not exactly a friendly poll to him. Saying things like this in this way, he'd be ahead by 6 or 7 if he didn't do that. If he was talking about the economy this week, if he was talking about crime and the border and things that this administration has failed on, I mean, yes, he does not choose his words very well. And no, Jonah, he is not on message. But he is about to win. He's about to win, despite the way he talks. That tells you how unpopular this administration is.
Now, he hit the nail on the button right there. This administration is unpopular. And the main reason is, like they've been saying for decades, It's the economy, stupid. The economy is horrible, despite them trying to convince you that the stock market is up and blah, blah, blah. All you have to do is go out to a restaurant. All you have to do is go to a grocery store. All you have to do is try to buy a house. All you got to do is try to buy a car. And you see the interest rates and the costs. It's staggering. My insurance has gone up 100% in less than 3 years. And this is what the American people, it's crushing my budget every month, this economy. And they don't think people see that. They think that everybody is just okay and everybody's doing wonderful. But for the most part, for the average American, we're struggling, especially if you're middle class or lower. People are struggling. The groceries, the gas, everything. It's just gone. I mean, I literally went to our local restaurant here, and all I had was a burrito with some rice and beans. I didn't even buy a drink or even a beverage, for that matter, and it was $27. I mean, $27 a few years ago would get you a wicked, incredible meal somewhere. I mean, you probably get a good steak or lobster for that. Now it's a burrito. What does that tell you? So let's listen to some more.
I disagree. I don't think he's going to win, but I also think this is going to get people
Delusional.
who are conservative Republicans to just stay home. They might not go vote for the vice president, but they are going to stay home. This is such reprehensible language over and over and over again. And I agree with you, Elliot. Nothing is moving the needle. But I do think these people are just going to stay home. I just don't think they're going to vote for him. I don't think these people want a president that acts like this.
So there you go. Her commentary is so biased. You can't convince people with logic. You can't convince people with facts. If they've decided a topic or anything in a very specific way, no matter what you say to them, they've made up in their mind. They made their decision. And no amount of facts, no matter amount of statistics, no matter amount of history that you could present them will change their mind. And that's what this panel is about, except for obviously for the Republican guy. That's what this panel was like. And I still have to say somewhat, this is this CNN trying to have a show and catering to the people that still watch CNN. I have to think nobody intellectually could really believe in what they're saying. I just don't. Anyways, that is my video for today. And I want to thank you for watching. And also, please, I got to tell you something. I've been on YouTube, and I've added my YouTube channel to all these political commentary web pages on Facebook. And people have been watching my videos, which is great. I'm happy about that. But they're not subscribing. And one guy said he did subscribe, but it didn't let him. So I'm going to have to check that out. But listen, I'm a new channel. Please, if you're watching my videos, please subscribe to my channel. I know you get sick of people saying this, but being a new channel, it's the only way that you're going to keep me on the air and allow me to be able to afford, to continue to do this. Anyways, thanks for listening. And I always want you to remember, what burns my ass probably burns your ass too. Thanks for watching.